Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Passionate People and Preposterous Peeves. I'm your host, Ike. And before you get too sucked into this awesome interview, do us both a favor and like, subscribe, and share this amazing piece of entertainment, because I'm here with the one, the only, Nathaniel Holt!
Thanks, Ike. That was quite an introduction.
You gotta feel special and amazing sometimes, so why not here?
Yeah.
So, my man, you got a favorite dad joke for us today?
Oh, sure. Well, I don't know. Did you hear about the restaurant on the moon?
I didn't.
Oh, well, the food's great, but there's no atmosphere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so great. You just can't beat a good moon joke, I tell you. Speaking of things you can't beat, do you have a favorite underutilized word to share with us today?
I do. It's a word that I struggle with. It's called perspicacity is the word.
That does sound like a mouthful. What does it mean?
It means one's ability to quickly grasp things or understand things. Like if I haven't had my coffee in the morning, I struggle with my perspicacity for calculus. Something like that.
Or for me, if you're awake at any time, I struggle with my perspicacity for calculus.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, yeah, I'm probably giving myself even more credit than I deserve. R.E. perspicacity.
Is there a movie you will never skip when channel surfing?
That's a good one. I'm going to throw you a curveball here. So there was this movie that came out in the aughts called I Heart Huckabees with
Jude Law,
Mark,
Marky Mark, his Funky Bunch, Naomi Watts, I think. Yeah, Jason Schwartzman. Yeah.
Oh wow! You see, you got the whole cast. Like, I remember it being like hyped up, and then it kind of like got panned and didn't do well and like lost money. But as like somebody wrestling with existentialism throughout most of my 20s, I thought it was just kind of like a genius screwball comedy, but about existentialism. I thought it was far out.
Yeah, no, it very much is slice of life meets, that kind of existential, like, what are we all doing here? It is it is both going not far enough and too far simultaneously. Like, I get why it was panned, but at the same time, it is really sweet. It's like a good peach on like a hot summer day that like, you just like pulled out of the fridge or was sitting near like a cold bottle of Coke or something like that. It's just like you being as enamored with it is like really annoying to other people, but you still can't get over how great this peach is. You know, but it is just a peach.
It's very heartwarming and life affirming despite diving into like what is spiritual despair and stuff. And it's just very silly. So I enjoy that one. There's also like, I don't know if this is still floating around, but there was this like viral video of the director absolutely going apeshit on the set and screaming at Lily Tomlin. They were like yelling at each other.
Yeah.
He's like,
no, I've seen this clip. It's insane.
Yeah.
It's like they're just like, it's like this nice heartwarming movie and cut. What the fuck?
Oh my God.
Christ.
He's losing his shit, and Jason Schwartzman and Dustin Hoffman are just like sitting on the set, like pretending it's not happening.
And being two kids in the middle of a divorce, just like this is what they do. Mom and dad just fight like this. It's fine.
Yeah, Lily Tomlin's calling him a fucking psycho, and he's saying like, "Why don't you go do your one-woman show off Broadway?" Just. But anyways, good work of art, regardless.
Worth their suffering. Mr. Holt, what would you say is your biggest everyday temptation?
Oh, cheese puffs, like
Cheesy puffs.
Yeah, the ones that are clearly artificial cheese, but it says real cheese on the package, but you just know that it's a lie.
Bold-faced lie. Yeah, there's like, look, we both know what this is, but come on.
No.
You know you want it.
Yeah, I mean, just let's say, like, after the kids go to bed late at night, you know, maybe I enjoy some, like, semi-legal substances and get very hungry for absolute junk. And, you know, as I get older, it's hard to keep off the weight, but I cannot really resist these cheese puffs. Yeah, I get eye rolls from my wife, who's like a very healthy eater. But, you know, 20 years in, she hasn't really made a dent on this particular habit.
She's just looking at you going, what am I going to do with the last 10 years of my life by myself?
Yes, exactly. Oh, my life expectancy is way worse than hers, that's for sure.
I kind of wish that the Cheese Poof Company just fully dialed it up to who gives a shit a little bit more, because it's a bold-faced lie with a wink. I really wish it was just a biting truth instead, just like fake cheese. Shut up, we both know you're gonna eat this later. Like this, you know, like stop being like, oh, like nobody, there's no person in the world that goes real cheese. Like nobody goes real cheese and believes it. It's everybody is like saying it, winking to somebody. It's just so absurd.
Right. It should just say like live fast, die young, you know, just killing you slowly, whatever. And make the consumer feel like they're doing something dangerous and fun.
Yeah,
you know?
Exactly. Just treat it like smoking did in the 60s, just like whatever, man.
Right.
Like lean into the skid super hard.
Yeah, like probably you shouldn't be doing it in public spaces, you know, like getting your...
It's bad for people around you.
Yeah, you get those orange fingers and like you're touching a fucking, you know, bus bench or something. It's like, ew, what is he doing?
And that's how Corona started.
Right.
Somebody cheese poofs on a bus bench.
Yeah, or you're like sitting on the bus and somebody's like busting out like a package of cheese puffs, and you're just like, it is kind of gross just to even be near someone, and it's like all over their mouth and stuff.
Yeah, it's so funny because there's nobody that looks at somebody else eating cheese poofs and goes, nice, or it's like, even if you're gonna do it later, you look at them with disdain. You're just like, you piece of shit. It's like, it's the way you look at, like, at no point, the only activity of eating cheese puffs that's good is when you can't see the mirror and you're just staring into like the 3 a.m. television, just shoveling it.
Yeah, no, there's a reason I've never taken a selfie with a pack of cheese puffs.
There's no cheese. That would be the most dead on arrival campaign ever. Like, oh, I take a selfie. The only way it would work is if you gave away a pack of free cheese puffs to everybody who did it. Growing up, did you have a favorite book?
Good question. I'll say yes, and it's actually a book that I've read to my son, and he actually wanted me to read it to him again, so I've read it to him twice. It's a little known book, but it's a gem. It's called Lizard Music, and yeah, it's written by this guy Daniel Pinkwater, who I just loved all his books growing up. He was like a commentator on NPR when I was a kid, and did just kind of like some humor type stuff, but he wrote like little kids books, but also like chapter like novels that were you know, for tweens and up or something. And this particular story is about like an 11-year-old whose parents go on vacation, and then his like teenage sister just decides to like up and leave with her friends, and so he's just like home by himself eating TV dinners and like watching Walter Cronkite,
as the kids do.
Yeah, exactly. And then he just sees like anthropomorphized lizards on television playing music, and then he meets a homeless dude who keeps a chicken under his hat, and they go rafting to an invisible island where they meet the lizards. It's just like this weird, far out tale. So that's what I would say. Lizard Music by Daniel Pinkwater.
That's awesome. The name alone, I'm looking at it on Amazon, and love that. But what caught my eyes in the top left of one of his other books is the Hoboken Chicken Emergency.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's a good one too.
The most amazing, like, like art I've ever seen. It's this giant chicken wrecking the shit of downtown with a plane, with a biplane coming at it like it's Godzilla. Holy crap!
Yeah, Alan Mendelsohn, The Boy from Mars, is another good one. It's like about a kid who like teaches himself telepathy and like just reads books into having superpowers or whatever. So
that's such an awesome lesson to teach kids.
Yeah,
read books, you'll have superpowers.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
They're not wrong, just not as right as you'd hope.
Exactly.
All right, this is a toughie. If you had to evacuate your house, what's the first possession you'd grab, assuming that all living things could, kind of get out on their own accord?
Right. It would be my Magic card collection, 100%. It may be the only thing of value that I actually own. Like, probably my laptop is like number 2, but that's extremely replaceable. I collect Magic cards, and I play Magic, and I've put a lot of love and care into the collection. It's not even worth a ton, it's probably worth like $10,000, which sounds like a whole lot, but I know that hardcore Magic players like who have been collecting forever, plus all my cards are like beat up because I just played the shit out of them, because
you loved them too much.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like a pair of worn jeans that you won't stop wearing no matter how many holes are in them or whatever.
Until literally it's illegal because I'm nude. These jeans are coming with me.
Yes. Oh yeah, I would rescue that.
So as a fellow Magic player, I've been kind of talking with people recently. It's interesting to hear the smattering on the size of people's collections. So not to ask you to whip out the measuring stick, but about how many cards do you think you are in your possession?
Oh man, well, I forced myself to throw out a few thousand, which was very painful. I usually save all the draft commons and stuff, but now that I've jettisoned the penny cards and whatnot, I still probably have, I don't know, let me just probably like 30,000 cards, I would say, something like that. Yeah.
Damn. All right, you got me beat by a mile. I thought I was going to the topper part of the echelon with about like 6K over here. Holy crap, 30,000.
Like in terms of individual cards, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, and then it would be worth like $17,000 if they were mint, but they're not. So I would say more like 10,000 in total, but it's very top heavy, that has way more to do with like my 200 most valuable cards than most of them are just not worth anything. Yeah.
No, totally. So do me a favor, clear your mind. Now, what's the first thing that comes to mind when I say underrated?
Underrated. Okay. I'm gonna say so I just had these like marinated beans last night. They're like those big, giant, like Great Northern beans, but bigger, like, I don't know, maybe you see them in a Goya can, but if you marinate them in like olive oil and garlic and some herbs and shit, it's like nobody would ever think that that's like a good like toothpick appetizer or whatever, but it actually super is. Yeah.
I vaguely know what you're talking about. I remember having them at some cocktail party ages ago and looking at them being like, okay, whatever. And I think grabbing them by accident and being like, shit, well, they're on my plate. The line to get back to the food is too long. All right, screw it. Let's just eat this. That kind of desperation, any port in a storm kind of thing. I was like, wait, what the hell? Like, these are amazing. It was like alongside the first time I think I found out about bread and butter pickles, which just changed my life.
Yeah, and you might see them next to little pickles or gherkins. They might be next to those like marinated mushrooms that you pick with a toothpick, or like sun-dried tomatoes. Like, it's often in a little like platter of just shit you pick at with a toothpick while having a cocktail. So it was my wife's birthday last night, and we had some of these little toothpick appetizers, and I made her rosé all day cocktail, like a little rosé wine, some Campari, and some other shit. I don't know. I had a few drinks. I don't remember all the ingredients, but
it got there.
We got there. Yeah.
What would you say is your favorite industry secret or a term that's only used in your line of work?
Okay, so I work in local politics here in Philadelphia. Not big national politics because I don't like to drive or fly anywhere. So I just help like the local people. The term that I think is pretty humorous is political operative. And this is like something that people would call me, right? Just kind of like this behind the scenes power broker, you know, like passing along whispers to create, you know, flame rumors and stuff. And like, if you think about it that way, I can see it. But it sounds a little sexier than it deserves. Like
it gives a James Bond je ne sais quoi.
Right. It is like a CIA operative. Like, what am I, a fucking spy? Like, no, you just make phone calls and like talk to people and talk to voters. So I usually go by campaign worker, but that I you know, because I identify more with the proletariat. But you know, like I'm not doing any like super secret shit. So I just think it's funny, a funny term, political operative.
Yeah, that's so. Yeah, it's really funny that like both options lead to incorrect assumptions. Like political operative, it sounds like, you know, you've got a gun, you know, you have like a second form of identity, nobody knows your real name, you don't have fingerprints. Or campaign worker, it makes you sound so humdrum that your job sounds like you just like are a gopher that gets lunch. You know, it sounds like you're nearly an intern. You know, they give you like a little bit more of a stipend than they would an intern. And so like neither are accurate.
The truth is somewhere in between, you know. It's like there are the fun days, you know, are like I don't know, like most revolutions are planned like over a beer in a beer garden or, you know, whatever. And it's like, so some days it's fun to like meet somebody and like plan something to try to upend politics in the city. And then to, you know, make it some portion of the way through that plan. So that's more of a political operative day. But when you're just grinding on fucking spreadsheets and like asking people for $200 or whatever, it's just like, that doesn't feel super sexy at all. So
getting hung up very aggressively on.
Yes, exactly.
So Philadelphia, is that where you were born and raised?
I was raised in nearby New Jersey, so I hopped just over the border. No, I'm not. I don't have Will Smith's Philly credentials, but I will slap a motherfucker who talks shit about Philly, or Jersey for that matter. Like, these are two places that people just love to shit on. Am I allowed to curse on this podcast? Or
well, if you weren't, we would have a bigger problem. But no, you are more than welcome to use whatever kind of sailor speech you prefer.
Yeah, well, then I'll say like, motherfuckers be acting like they're too good for Jersey or Philly, and I'm just like, where the hell are you from? Like freaking bumblefuck Illinois or Kansas? Like, what cool place are you from that you're talking shit about my city? So anyway, I've been here almost 20 years and really love it. It's definitely my adopted home. And it's where my kids have been born or being raised. So awesome. Yeah, I love it here. Yeah. I
didn't know people talk. I know that people talk way too much shit about Jersey. And I've heard from plenty of people that have lived there that it's like, it gets too much. It's kind of like, it has that like kind of Nickelback issue where it's like, look, it's not amazing, but Jesus Christ, we didn't kill anybody. Like, we're fine. Like Jersey's pretty great. It's just like it gets way like more of a bad rep than it should. I didn't realize that Philly did. I know Philly gets like kind of like a little bit of like a kind of ushka look from some of the surrounding places because of its like kind of violence issues.
Right.
Which don't know if that's overhyped or not. But I didn't know it got like a bad rep and sort of kind of like their shit. I always kind of thought people looked up to Philly. You know, you got the cheesesteak, you got the Liberty Bell.
Yeah, well, some people give it the respect it deserves. I think that, like, yeah, violent crime is an issue, but I've literally never had a problem. Like, here's the thing, like, don't be afraid of our neighborhoods. Just don't walk up in here, like, owing a drug dealer $7,000 or whatever. You know, it's like...
Words to live by.
Yeah,
Don't walk up in here owing a drug dealer $7,000.
Yeah, like if you want to stay out of trouble, if you want to stay out of trouble, then just don't start shit with people. Like it's just not that hard. And you know, like I think a lot of people come to Philly like afraid. Maybe they move here, you know, because they're like too broke to live elsewhere, or they just like had to take a job here or something, and they come here and they're like afraid of being fucked with. But then what I tell people is like over time, like in the end, like it will be other people who are afraid to fuck with you. And it's very empowering, I would say. Yeah.
That's great. All right. Is there a piece of advice you've been told over the years that has made the biggest impact on you, or that you find yourself pondering even to this day?
This is going to sound really simple, but I think it's just breathe. Like, you know, like the mindfulness techniques are like all the rage. Like a lot of like, you know, East Asian meditation practices have now been fully adopted by like Western medical professionals and psychiatrists and psychologists and stuff like that. And, you know, life can get fucking stressful, right? Especially, you know, you're like adulting harder like every year, you know, maybe you have kids and like it can just get overwhelming. And I think it's just important to take time and like focus on your out breath and stay present in the moment. And I don't know, just that kind of thing I think has helped me like change careers a couple times and ways that were perhaps not advisable by you know, like the teachers you grew up with who wanted you to kind of pick a path and stay on it, like, but living with uncertainty and like learning to live with like doubts about what you're doing and stuff like that becomes easier if you just kind of ground yourself.
It was interesting when you said just breathe. My initial thought was of that same wavelength, but of a kind of different, more like panic attacky nature. Like, because the idea of just breathing and, you know, staying in the moment, being where you are, you know, collecting your thoughts is very good, very powerful. Highly recommend. But also there's the other kind of, you know, you're having a bad day, you're like kind of freaking out. The most important thing to remember to do is literally just breathe and like, you know, don't let yourself vamp up this problem that is probably not actually, like in the grand scheme of things, that big, and just kind of like, you know, calm yourself down, do the, 4-7-8 breathing technique, and just kind of get yourself back down to a little bit more of a reasonable heart rate.
Right. And that kind of coupled with what I was taught was called imaginal exposure. So like, exposure therapy is like, let's say you have a fear of dogs or something, and like, you know, so they might start like somebody who's like helping treat the phobia would do exposure therapy where it's like, okay, let's just start by looking at a dog across the street. You know, like where there's like a super safe distance, the dog is on a leash, and then you kind of work your way up to just being in the same room as a puppy. And, you know, like you can like gradually expose yourself to something and learn not to be afraid of it anymore. And imaginal exposure is that, but like in your mind, where you're like sort of imagining a worst case scenario situation where it's like, okay, well, I'm going to take this like career risk. You know, and what is literally the worst thing that could happen? Okay, well, I blow it. I have no money. You know, I backfired. I have a bad reputation professionally. And it all sounds like really horrible. But then you're just like, well, what the hell would happen if that happens? Like, you still have your family, you still have people in your life who love you, you still have like a support network, you know, around you. You still be, you know, you still have skills and talents that you can try to bring into something new. And maybe if it didn't work out, it was for the best anyway, you know. So there's like, you can sort of expose yourself to like your worst fears, just like in your mind. Yeah, and you do that with some breathing, and it just makes things less scary, I think.
Yeah. Moral of the story, folks: keep breathing. It's good for you.
Yeah.
Given the opportunity, what is your favorite personal anecdote to tell?
Oh man, I thought about this. This one.
Yay! You thought about it.
Yeah, I it's so funny. Like, I'm trying to think of something. Okay, so there's two. Let me tell the short one. So having kids is like a ride, you know. They're always doing funny stuff, but if I had to pick one anecdote, and this is going to get scatological, I think this yeah, this is probably my kids are age 7 and 4 now, but this is probably when they were like 4 and 1. So my 1-year-old Robin, running around the house in his diaper, and my 4-year-old Arthur just comes up to me and says, "Well, Robin made a mess." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" And he was like, "Daddy, come see. Robin made a big mess." And so I run over to the living room. I was just like, you know, I didn't leave them unattended. I was just literally in the next room.
Yeah.
But I go over the living room, and there is just shit coming out of Robin's diaper. Shit is in the carpet. It is like smeared places. And I'm like, oh my God, like what? This is disgusting. And then I look over, and Arthur, and I didn't notice this when he came and told me, his hands are covered in shit. And I'm like, oh, Robin made a mess. It really looks like you reached into his diaper and took shit out of his diaper and smeared it everywhere. And like the you know, around age 4 is like right when they start figuring out how to lie about stuff and like, you know,
cover it up, become secret agents.
Yeah. But of course they're extremely bad at lying.
They're terrible.
Yeah, they really. So that's kind of a snapshot of the type of stuff you deal with. You know, maybe not to that extreme, but it's literally like something exhausting and gross like every day, especially at that age. But so anyway, yeah.
I love the idea of like, he made the mess, I dispersed it.
It's true. Like the raw materials came from Robin. Yeah, that's true. He did make he made the paint that you painted with.
Yeah, yeah, but you put it all over the house.
On the canvas. The house is your canvas. Yeah.
He's like an early Monet in his shit period.
Oh, I'm sure there's like some artsy museum in New York City that would have loved photos of it, you know, blown up.
Been all about it, yeah.
Yeah.
This is baby with diaper spread. What's your favorite little known fact?
Okay, yes. This is another one I saw in the notes. This is good. You're keeping me on my toes where a bunch of questions I haven't thought about, some I have. But this one I thought about. I was really into astronomy. I'm not a scientist, but you know, I married a scientist. She's a brain injury researcher, but I really loved astronomy growing up, and like, I don't think people realize how dope Edwin Hubble is. Like, they know the Hubble telescope, like they know the telescope that's named after him, but like there originally was this dude named Edwin Hubble. And most scientists like would be extremely lucky, like super rare to have one like major scientific breakthrough in their career. And Hubble had like 2 or 3.
Damn.
Which is astounding. And like one of them is, this is the dude who discovered that there are more galaxies than just the galaxy we live in. So,
oh shit.
yeah, like these celestial bodies that people thought were just individual stars or like just a cloudy nebula. He was like, no, those are other galaxies. And the universe is like a billion times larger than we think it is. Like, it's not just our galaxy. So that's a pretty dope discovery. And then he also literally calculated that the universe was expanding and calculated like the specific rate by which it is expanding. So there is actually a known speed through which like stars and other whatever matter in outer space is like spreading out into the void. And he actually I don't know the number or whatever, but it has to do with observing light redshifting, you know, like how things are moving and changing color as they're doing it, you know, which has to do with how light is reflected off of it back towards us. So that's a pretty amazing career. So anyway, those are two little known facts. I don't think people understand how dope Edwin Hubble is. They think of Einstein, you know, being more or less a contemporary, you know, and the other famous scientists, but got to give Hubble his respect.
That's really cool. Yeah, I'll definitely have to look into him more after this. I want to find out his third discovery. That's rad.
Yeah, there was another law that seemed like wonkier. Yeah,
a little bit more of a mouthful.
yeah, you asked for one little known fact, I gave you two, but you know, he's got a resume. Yes. Value, baby.
You hear that audience at home? You're welcome. You got two this week. All right, fill in the blank for me. This weekend was so great. I spent 13 hours
13 hours blank.
Yep.
Sunscreening and bathing kids. Like it was a random ass heat wave this week, and so all they did was like slip and slide stuff and alternating getting sunburnt and getting sunscreen washed off of them because they had like rashes related to sunscreen. I don't know what to do about this problem. I can't let them just get roasted under the sun, but if the sunscreen gives them a rash, I don't know. We just have to constantly be washing them off. I need a long-term fix here, but yeah, it was a lot of outdoors this weekend during like a very odd heat wave. Historical highs for March here. Yay, global warming. Yeah.
Okay. So that's what happened literally this last weekend.
Yeah.
I should potentially couch this better. What I mean is, in a theoretical circumstance, the weekend is so great because I spent 13 hours doing blank.
Oh, like if I could pick something.
Yeah, if you could make a weekend, if you could make a day where you spent 13 hours doing your favorite activity. Yeah, one. It could be like a kind of like, you know, writing or like going to like a theme park or something like that, but relatively like one sphere of weekend identity.
You know what I need in my life right now? Just came off an election. I would love a 13-hour like Magic the Gathering. Just like let me chain like 4 or 5 games of Commander, and just I don't know, like sit back at my brother's house, enjoy some drinks, and just run Rakdos Burn all day, which for the listeners is like I love creating chaos. There's a lot of dice rolling and coin flipping, and I light people's faces on fire. That's basically the theme of the Magic deck that I play most often. So give me 13 hours of Magic. I'm ready for it.
So I've now that we've brought up Commander, I've got a kind of interesting follow-up questions there. So how many players are in a preferred pod of Commander? What is your preferable number?
Great question. So I believe that the best format of all time is what we call Pentacle, or other people might call Star format, where you have 5 players, and it really helps clean up the politics. You only attack the 2 players sitting across from you. And the players sitting on your left and right you're not allowed to attack them in combat, and you don't win if they die. You have to, you win the game when both of your opponents have been eliminated across the table. So it creates these really funny politics where the people sitting next to you are your quote unquote allies, but they also, each of them wants to kill one of your opponents and also protect one of your opponents. And you're trying to win the game, not let your allies win. But it's definitely, I think, way cleaner politically than just the out and out free for all, where people, nobody wants to do anything. They just want to wall up and wait, until some other players are eliminated to do anything. But the Pentacle format encourages proactivity and aggressive advancing of the game state. So that's my preference there.
And so I'm gonna take a wild guess here. Are you not a fan of infinite combos then in EDH? Is that kind of
we're
bad
not
form?
Yeah, we're not so into that. We're way more casual. We don't play, $1,000 decks. We don't play infinite combos. We don't even track commander damage because it's like, who wants to keep track of rules? 20 different life totals. I have to keep track of which 5 different commanders have done damage to every single player. It's just, I don't know, too much work. We keep it a little simpler and more casual, and it ends up in the end being which of my friends has annoyed me the most this past week. Let's gang
this
up
is for
on
that
them.
email, Ted.
Yes, exactly. Right.
Can you think of the first or most impactful memory when you realized you weren't so alone in your struggle, or were more like everybody else than you had previously realized?
You just mean in life?
Yeah.
Can you say the question again?
Sure. Can you think of the first or most impactful memory when you realized you weren't so alone, or when you weren't so alone in your struggle, or were more like everybody else than you'd previously realized? If you'd like an example, I've got one for you.
Yeah, why don't you give me an example? I think I know what you mean, but I need a second to think about it. And why don't you give me an example?
give you some time to gestate. So when I was first coming into college, I noticed I had trouble public speaking, getting up in front of a class. Didn't matter if I'd read it beforehand, didn't matter if it was something I was passionate about, something I was scared of talking about. I always my throat would kind of close up and I would get a headache. And then eventually sit down, it would diminish and go away. And I called my brother and talked to him about it. I was like, something's wrong with me. This, it's so bad. He goes, no, dude, you just hate public speaking like everybody else. I was like, what are you talking about? He goes, they did a poll. The things that people fear the most are literally public speaking. Before death, people are more scared of public speaking than dying. This is a completely natural reaction. This is just something that happens. And the more I looked into it, Patton Oswalt, famous and great comedian, had problems with it. Talked to Jim Gaffigan and said, does this ever go away? He goes, no, this is always the thing. This is it's the thing you overcome and you get better at it, but it's always there. Bo Burnham famously had to cancel a show and deal with that issue because he I think he passed out before a 2,000 person show because he was having an anxiety attack. It's this is a a very human condition. It'd be really weird if you got up there and it was a natural fit. It was like a glove. That would be strange. It was oh, and just having that moment of not thinking I was the only person experiencing this allowed me to accept myself and move forward. I still struggle with that, but not have 2 problems rear its head. Just the one of public speaking still sucks.
Yeah. Okay. Well, first of all, that's very insightful of you, and it's good on your support network to kind of help you through that. Let me pick a somewhat recent-ish example where I made this career switch from producing web content about Magic the Gathering to being a political organizer in Philadelphia. It's kind of a 180.
Just a bit.
But just
not really
a bit of a
through
180
line between either of the two.
Yeah, and it's like the imposter syndrome was very strong. I realized, like, so I'm there just kind of getting enmeshed in these political campaigns, and I'm like, am I just pretending to know way more than I do? Do people like respect me too much just because I'm a tall white man and I really have no fucking clue what I'm doing? And like, like I said, we were like find 12 people or whatever and like, sit in somebody's living room and have these ambitious plans to like take down one of the city's most powerful, political figures or whatever. Like, what the fuck are we doing? Is this like toy soldiers or something? But like, then, I realized like kind of everybody deals with this imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
And this is like extremely important work, like as scummy as like and dishonest and corrupt as politicians are, especially in like a big old guard like political machine city. Like Philly is one of the largest cities in the US and has this like old ass political establishment that we're kind of pushing up against. But it's like very important to people's lives, but also like nobody wants to do this shit. Like so it's just very important that good people do this important work, but it's in this world that nobody wants to be in, so that your imposter syndrome is buoyed by the fact that people are just incredibly grateful that you're doing it so that they don't have to. And, because so few people actually want to get involved, it does make like, you really only need to get like 12 to 15 people focused on something to literally like make these powerful people like shake in their boots, because a lot of them are paper tigers. They're just used to nobody rocking the boat. They've got their little money train rolling, and they're just not used to like having somebody turn the lights on and expose them for who they are. So even though there's like a lack of experience and this crazy imposter syndrome, it's more just like if you jump in and fake it till you make it, you end up making a really big difference in the community around you.
Wow, thank you for sharing that. I very much had a similar kind of issue when starting this podcast and like creating a Twitter account and stuff like that. I had that same kind of imposter syndrome issue where it was like, who am I to do this? Only, big, cool, great people should be doing this. It's not for the low life such as myself. And it took a long time and a couple people going, you do realize everybody's full of it, right? Nobody's not lying to themselves. And like, everybody is as, you are as big and as small as you kind of want to be. And it's like, oh, all right, well then fuck it. I'm just gonna do this thing I've always like dreamt of doing, and then
right. And people don't care about your hang-ups the way you do. Like people care about their own hang-ups. Like they have anxiety over their own place in the world. And they're just not paying attention to you. Like I learned that like, oh, people don't really care about my issues. So there's this great quote somebody told me. It's just like it sounds mean, but if you think about it, it's so weightlifting, which is nobody talks about you when you leave the room. Right. Everybody thinks that the second like they leave a room, people start being like, who is that fucking idiot? That guy's weird. He's dumb. We shouldn't hang out with him. Nobody says that. Nobody thinks about you the second you leave. You are not the main character in everybody's story. You are only the main character in your own, which sounds like, oh, you're worthless. No. It just means you don't need to be so worried. Like you're not walking on the eggshells that you think you're walking on. It's like you can do whatever you want. Nobody's like, the likelihood that people are going to like talk about you is like pretty low. And when they do, you'll know about it. Because then you'll be like, Kanye or something like that. You'll have that kind of like huge clout and shit. Yeah. It won't be something that you'll wonder. You'll be quite aware that people are talking about you. Exactly.
So, bit of an offshoot. You're talking about your change from magic video production to working in politics. If you don't mind, as somebody who's been a big fan of yours, if you haven't checked out Walking the Plains, this is one of the best video series of all time when it comes to magic. I think it very much mixed, especially early on, it mixed a lot of fun with a lot of, looking at like tournament coverage in a way of kind of balancing it out for like the whole cast of people that play and follow Magic, which I think was genius. And then you went on and made a fantastic docu-series, or is it just one collective movie? I don't know how you would personify it. Did you consider it like a docu-series or just one solid documentary?
Yeah, well, first, let me just say, thanks for watching Walking the Plains. Oh, yeah. It makes me smile ear to ear to hear about people who really enjoyed it. We pivoted into it was both a docu-series and we did a feature documentary called Enter the Battlefield. Yeah, so it had like a 2 or 3 year run on Netflix, the feature length, and then we had the docu-series that kind of came out of that was on Magic's normal YouTube, Facebook, social media, whatever outlets. But Walking the Plains, I think, was more like the personal passion project. It's how we got involved, and it was like a lot of mixing silly fun with the documentary style stuff. So to me, that'll always be first in my heart when it comes to like my involvement with the Magic community. So it was a wild time, and it feels like a really long time ago now. But yeah, we did it from Walking the Plains was like 2012 to 2017 or something, and then we did Enter the Battlefield into 2019, and then I made this career switch.
So what made you, how did you go about doing that? Because I don't want to go into the money aspect of it necessarily, but maybe that's the issue. But it seemed like you were getting to kind of do this thing you always wanted to and loved. Was it just like you were, you reached the top of the mountain and, like retire at the top, kind of, I've done all the things I've wanted to do, moving something on? Or was there something that just changed inside you or that you just noticed and wanted to pursue?
It was a variety of factors, I think. First is that, well, one, Wizards, for anybody who follows Magic, especially like online content for Magic or the Pro Tour or whatever, is that they were pivoting away from Pro Tour coverage in general. And so like it was sort of trending towards, they wanted to promote Magic Arena, the online game, more and more. They wanted to divest from the paper tournaments more and more. So we were also kind of like this like Maverick semi off brand, shoot, like we came on at a time where they were like desperate for more video content in their coverage. They, before we hopped on, like they didn't even cover the Swiss rounds of tournaments. Like it was only the top 8. Yeah. So we jumped on at a time when they were greatly expanding Pro Tour coverage, and we kind of hopped out as they were contracting it. But in addition to that, it did feel like, not every TV show needs to go on forever. There are lots of good TV shows, end after, 4 or 5 seasons or 2 or 3 seasons, so when we produced 41 episodes of Walking the Plains, it just felt like it was kind of winding down. And my co-creator, collaborator, I mean, the show was pretty much, aside from our guests and participants, it was produced by my friend Sean and me. Sean Kornhauser is his name. And I think like we were both more interested in other endeavors. Furthermore, I'd always been passionate about politics. I'd always had like hot takes and opinions and like, was into, left progressivism, back before it was cool, so to speak, like, going back to like I don't know, nobody wanted to hear about Ralph Nader's run for president in 2000, you know, but like I was just that guy at the party. And then after Trump got elected, it created this like very heightened interest, I think, for the average person in politics, because it was a bit of a mind blower. You know, they're used to, like the Bushes are a political dynasty and the Clintons went to Yale Law School, and, you know, they're just the kind of stewards of American democracy, kind of just came from these backgrounds that, you know, people sort of like, you know, tacitly accepted or understood. And then you have like a very, what's the word? Flame-throwing TV celebrity, you know, become president, and people just didn't know what was happening. And it seemed like democracy itself was in the balance here. And so, you know, you saw voter turnout go way up. And part of what that was for me is like, well, instead of just, you know, knocking on 50 doors every election, or just kind of like sharing my opinions with friends and family, like I wanted to walk the walk a little bit more. And I felt very compelled to get deeply involved. And so that's kind of where I just felt like more and more empowered the more I got involved locally here in Philly. So yeah, that was kind of the pivot. But I would definitely say that walking the plains is like my favorite job I've ever had, like very easily. I mean, just the creative freedom we were given, and just the like creative outlet that it was, and just being someone who loved magic and the magic community, and being able to travel. You know, it was kind of a dream come true, you know, while it lasted, I would say.
That's so awesome. And it sounds like, if I'm hearing it quantitatively right, you got to live it through its whole entire, like, not that it had a trajectory, but it's not something where it sounds like there's no stone unturned for the most part. You know, you hit it at the right time and you got to do, sounds like, everything you wanted to with it.
Yeah, I think like by the time we left, you know, there were so many content creators, you know, it's not like the magic community like needed us as much, you know, but when we started, there was way less by comparison. And, you know, when we made our first like independent little viral video in 2011, and this was literally right when 720p video resolution had hit YouTube. So this was like the first high def video. So I think people were just blown away that there was a magic video that had like high
decent
def
res.
just decent res. Like, and that was just way more about lucky timing, you know, than anything. And they're also kind of, you know, used to Pro Tour coverage being very spikish, or you know, focused on just like deck techs and, you know, the best strategy and, you know, this and that. And so this was like, we were bringing something very silly and playful, because, you know, to me, it's like a great game, but it's also a bunch of like wizards and dragons and like, you know, slime monsters, and like, you know, it's
there
it's
is
like
a perspective
stuff
where you can look at it where it is cartoonish.
Yeah.
To be certain.
And like, for that appeals to the kid in you, you know. So we wanted to bring it, like, trying to merge this world of like the silly fantasy elements, you know, with the seriousness of the people who dedicated their lives to playing the game. So
that's so awesome. Yeah, you're like, this is going to sound a bit honorific, but I really do think it tracks. You're kind of like the Neil Armstrong of this kind of content creation for Magic. You know, like, you came in, you did it, you were the first, you made this lasting impact that changed the trajectory of everything. Man. And with, you know, we owe you the Magic community, I think, owes you a great debt. So as part of it, I really appreciate your work.
I love that you bringing the astronomy into it, right at the but that's very, very nice thing of you to say. I think, like, you know, I think we were just lucky to be welcomed by the community, and it was really like the magic community was what made it all happen, right? Like that was the gas in the tank, and we were just kind of vessels for the community. So I felt humbled by that all along. But yeah, if people enjoyed it, you know, that's all we ever wanted. I always wanted people to enjoy it, and maybe for it to have enough like Muggle appeal that, you know, they could like show their parents or their significant others or whatever, so that they could learn more about, you know, what it was that these Magic players are so passionate about.
So fun and approachable. Well, it's kind of, you know, dovetails with the next question. Is there a moment that you look back on in your life that fills your chest with pride or brings a tear of joy to your eye?
Man.
Which kid is going to be?
I was going to say, like, this is like, this is like kind of a cop out, but definitely the birth of my kids, which are very different. And, you know, I don't want to get too personal, but my first kid, it was like a dicey childbirth, you know, just complications and stuff, but we made it.
You guys
through
weren't playing Yahtzee?
No, oh man. Yeah, with childbirth, it feels like you're rolling the dice, like something weird might happen. But, you know, we kind of made it through that, and there was like a ton of pride, especially for my wife, I think, for kind of making it through
climbing the Himalayas.
Right. And I'm just like sitting there and wringing my hands and talking to doctors. She's the one
eating
actually
eating
cheese puffs, like from my comfy seat across the room, where she's like going through it all. And then with our second kid, it was like more of like a blissful, you know, like normal, happy childbirth. And I don't know, like, yeah, it's hard to overstate. You sort of like have to have a ton of pride about your kids, because they just drive you so effing crazy like every single day, and it's just so much work to take care of them that you're like, all right, well, I need that deep well of pride and love to like make it all worth this, and somehow the human body manages to put enough like neuroreceptors in your brain to cope with it all. So I don't know if it's a cop out, but that's what it is for me.
No, it's definitely not a cop out. And I think if you don't have that kind of, if you're not proud of your children like existing and like, you know, creating them and them being them, it's like you need to look at one of two things: either therapy or adoption.
Exactly.
Because that situation is not tenable. That one of you is not going to survive if they are not your pride and joy.
Yeah, most of the things you're not proud of are they're mostly not things that require like, I don't know, 3,000 calories worth of energy spent every single day, you know. So.
Yeah. All right. Well, lastly, before we throw it to commercial break, if you could have listeners of this podcast hear one song of your choosing, which would it be?
I want to keep it on the kids theme. So I usually hate kids content, but they're the Story Pirates. They have a podcast, but they also just make musical albums, and they're so hilarious. Like, kids write stories and send them to them, like email them to them, and then they make like songs out of that. So the song,
that's so cool.
Yeah, and it made me realize like most adult music is just all about, you know, romantic love or partying in the club. You know, it's just like there's only like 2 or 3 things that most musicians like write songs about. But when kids are writing the songs, shit is so random and funny, you know. So I'll recommend the Story Pirates album Backstroke Raptor, and my favorite song on that album is called The Giraffe Didn't Know. So the giraffe is trying to figure out how to change the world. And you think it's like, oh, change the world, like fill it with love and harmony, but what the giraffe figures out is how to change the world into a zoo. And I don't know. It's like every song on that album is gold, though. I would recommend it. Awesome.
Yeah. I didn't know that kind of little asterisk next to the way they wrote music. It's so cool. That reminds me, have you ever seen the show Axe Cop?
No, I haven't.
So Axe Cop is a show, I believe it's on Amazon or Hulu, that the show came into existence because I believe some 5-year-old kid wrote this story, as 5-year-old kids do, about an ex-cop and his like flute playing dinosaur summoning partner or something like that, like some nonsensical kid story, and somehow mailed it to like an executive producer somewhere, and the producers, or like maybe that was their dad, I don't remember, but ends up getting in the hands of some producer, and they're like, we're gonna make this. For whatever reason, they decided we're gonna make this. It's and awesome. The main character, it's animated. The main character is voiced by Nick Offerman, and it is a bananas delight. I would highly recommend. But it's the same kind of thing of just like, here's like what this kid, and they continue to have the 5-year-old write the screenplay. I believe it's still the same kid is like sending them these ideas, who they give to somebody who knows, you know, grammatical syntaxing, and then they go through and like make it actually make a little bit more sense to the people that are gonna have to read the lines. And then they make it, and it's just bananas. So
it's so funny. Cool. It's so much more interesting than like what grown-ups write, you know, exactly. art about. Like, yeah. So
you can't get any more absurd than a kid's idea of reality. It's so beautiful, and so it's so untainted too, right? It's not like, oh, there's got to be this and that. It's like, what if we just did this thing that I think is cool? It's like, yeah, just do the thing that you think is cool, man.
Yeah,
it's so pure. All right, with that, we're going to throw it to our first break. Feel free to stick around and enjoy the totally real commercial, or take a minute to enjoy The Giraffe Didn't Know by Story Pirates. Or if you really wanted to hear a song from a previous episode, check out the playlist on Spotify, Passionate People and Preposterous Peeves podcast song Rex. It's a long title, I know. Don't worry, there's a link in the description. Either way, see you in a jiffy. Do you ever find yourself sitting around with an emptiness inside your soul, or larger than preferred vacuous space? Would you like to change that? I thought so. Now introducing Stuff. For when you have nothing to do but important things. Stuff. For when you're lacking personality and intrigue. Stuff. When the world has taken a pickaxe-sized chunk out of your heart. Stuff. And if Stuff no longer fulfills these needs, please don't hesitate to look into our life-enhancing product, Addiction. Welcome back. So, Nate, what is the passion that you brought with you today?
So, my number one passion that I'm sort of obsessed with isn't magic or politics. I think it's basketball. The sport of basketball has been with me my whole life, and I'm still kind of obsessed with it.
Do you think that has anything to do with you being a giant of a human being? That's and having a slight unfair advantage when playing as a child?
That definitely has something to do with it. Yeah, like I grew up in a neighborhood where all the kids played basketball. I was into sports as a kid, but then I sort of just became less good at all of them over time. But because I was tall, I, stayed connected to basketball. I wasn't like a 5-star recruit or anything, but like if you wander onto the playground, like motherfuckers are trying to get me, on the team. So yeah, I basically just played my whole life. Yeah, now I play with a bunch of other like 40-year-old dads, and we're all just like fat and slow now. But it's like more just about playing with people on your level. Yeah, so I play. It's fun. I love the NBA. I love watching the NBA. I have a masochistic relationship with the Philadelphia 76ers, who constantly disappoint, but who I can't quit anyway. I'm like listening to off-season podcasts and like checking the message boards like 5 times a day and shit like that. So
you have a Jake Gyllenhaal relationship with him.
Yeah.
Can't quit you.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Fantasy basketball, we have a league, so I'm just a hooper. Like I love hoops. Yeah.
So, not to get too far ahead of it, how tall are you for the viewers at home who don't know?
I'm 6'7".
Good Lord. Not quite tall enough to just be auto drafted into college. If you hit 7, I think you just get picked, assuming that you can lace your shoes together.
Yeah. Yeah, I heard some stat or whatever that like 15% of all 7-footers of the U.S. will play in the NBA at some point or something. It's like There's just so few of them.
There's just a bar that at this height you have to.
Now you still have to be able to do something, like besides just stand there. Like, but the required skill level goes down the taller you get. I was like good enough in high school to be recruited by a couple Division III schools, which is no great distinction by any means. I was like wafer thin though, and I didn't have guard skills. Like I didn't have the handle and shooting really to you still have to have a lot of skill. I was more defense oriented, and just like passing out of the high post is mostly what I did. Playing pickup, you get to do all of it. You get to pretend to be Kobe half the time when you're playing pickup, so that's fun. But that actually, it's sad because I feel like my high school coach really, ruined my love of the game at the time. I was just like not a great coach. And then in college, I was like getting more into theater and I was more of a theater kid. And I just became less interested in sports in college. But then so probably the only time I didn't play, basketball was like my college years. And then after I graduated, I like moved to Philly and started hitting up the playgrounds and shit again. So, I'm
just getting this image of you walking onto a playground with a bunch of 8-year-olds and be like, "Can I play?" It's like, "Hey, pick him."
Well, what's funny is like I'm trying to hoop with the grown-ups, but like little kids do love seeing a tall guy. They usually want me to play with them, and I just kind of like walk around, and they're like, why don't you dunk it? I would be like, because I'm 40, motherfucker. Like, when I was 25, this was a different situation. But yeah, so I always disappoint them with my inability to dunk at this height. Yeah.
It's like such a breath of sad reality to them. Just like, why don't you dunk? Because my knees don't work.
Yeah.
Just have to like explain just like how biology sucks and they've got 15 good years left. They don't know it yet. They're just like, wait, what? Like, reality's a motherfucker. Get used to it, kids.
Right. It's like
walks
kids,
off the court, leaving him sad.
This is you have to practice your hook shot for when you're an old has-been stuck playing in the YMCA. Like, your sick moves don't work after a certain age. You need the fadeaway, you need the hook shot, and other like slow old guy moves.
Yeah, you need the ones that don't require you to jump more than 2 inches.
Right, exactly. Yep.
So, when did you start? When was the first time that you were exposed to basketball, like playing and watching? Like, what was the Nathan Holt basketball timeline looking like here?
So I moved when I was like 6 years old. We moved to a neighborhood in Plainfield, New Jersey, and I was just like an outdoor kid, right? Like, this is before kids had like iPads and shit. Like, you just like had to go play outside, and like my parents like wouldn't let me come in. They wanted me to have like outside time, and also like, in the early 90s or whatever, like I would not let my 7-year-old like just wander around the neighborhood randomly, but I don't know, there was something about parenting back then where you were just like a free range chicken and you could just do whatever the hell you wanted. So, I would like wander around, and so all the kids, like I grew up in a black neighborhood. And so like there was just a lot of passion for basketball. And like these kids taught me how to play. And we just like played almost every day. And I would like watch the game, but I didn't really get super into watching basketball on TV until like middle school, high school or whatever. But as a little kid, it definitely helped, to be exposed to it at a young age and having not that much else to do in my life. And then, I was like 6 years old playing with like 8 and 9-year-olds. So it was like really tough competition. And so I like learned the hard way or whatever. So Yeah, that was like a big part of it. I would say I learned more from them than I actually did from coaches, you know, just like hooping at the playground or in driveways or whatever. Like that's where most of my skill and knowledge of the game came from. And then coaches like kind of added to that as I was on teams and whatnot growing up, but it wasn't really like the foundation. It was the early childhood stuff that everything was built on.
So cool. So not only do you like playing this game, but you also say you like watching it. You have that difficult relationship, that on and off again relationship with the 76ers.
Yeah.
Who were like, what are some, have you seen much live, or is it predominantly just from the comfort of your couch? Where do you lie on like watching it in the stadium versus watching it at home?
I love watching it live. I only, you know, since the kids have been born, I only get to like a couple games a year. But it is the best experience. Like, especially during the years when they were really bad. There were years when they were like, quote unquote, tanking. Like the players weren't losing on purpose. Like the players were and coaches were trying to win every game, but the owners and front office were like purposely putting bad players on the team so that they could like lose games and try to get a higher draft pick. A strategy which eventually did work. But for those years where they were like perpetually packing the team with like these fringe players or these like undrafted players or like guys who, you know, like
people that walked off the street.
Yeah, essentially, you know, like so I didn't mind them losing at all. I knew it was part of a long-term strategy, and
cheaper tickets, right?
Oh my God, such cheaper tickets. Like you could sit in the frigging like second row, like it, and just
$5 and a high five.
Yeah, seriously. Like nowadays, like the team is like good now. I mean, they still disappoint in the playoffs or whatever, but they're like in the playoffs and they like win 50 games every year, you know? So like, yeah, now the tickets are way more expensive. They're not like Boston or New York expensive. Like Philly is still like broker of a city comparably, but yeah, like in those like 2016, 2017 days, like yeah, you could sit right next to these like giants. I mean, like I rarely feel short, and you know, to be on the court. Oh, another cool thing. Here's a cool anecdote. Is Sean and I, my friend who we made Walking the Plains with, he gets like, you know, he works for the University of Pennsylvania doing videography now, but he also gets like gigs, like, you know, just little random gigs. And so the TV show Inside Edition hired him to produce like a little feature over a teenage violinist who like performs hip hop on violin at sports arenas, like during halftime and stuff.
Awesome.
So, you know, Sean knew how much, like, we're both big basketball fans. That was like another bonding thing for us. And we're both 76ers fans. So he invited me to join him and like run audio and like do our old like interview documentary thing where I would ask the questions and whatnot. So, but we got to go into the guts of the stadium and like walk out onto center court while the players were warming up. Yeah. That was dope. You know, so I'm like, you know, standing 10 feet from Joel Embiid as he's like practicing against some tiny coach. And I was like, holy crap. Like that dude is a mountain. Like
how does he run?
Yeah, seriously. Like I don't know. It felt like a circus show watching all these guys around. Like I never feel dwarfed. And so it was surreal. Absolutely surreal.
What would you say is your favorite non-obvious aspect about basketball?
Yeah, I think the strategy, like people don't really know about the strategy. Like they just watch the ball and they see players dribbling and trying to get the ball in the hoop, right? But there's just basically it's 10 people on a dance floor moving in these elaborate patterns that you know the normal viewer doesn't notice. Like they don't notice when a 3-2 zone like morphs into a box and one, or when you know how defensive footwork goes, or how the chess game of like matching up lineups against the other team really works. And so I think like part of the cool thing about just being intimately involved in the game is like paying attention to players who are nowhere near the ball and like watching what they're doing, where they're setting screens, how they're communicating with each other, how they're moving through space, basically to create something with the ball, but like 2 or 3 actions ahead of time. So yeah, I love trying to figure that stuff out. And even though like I've been playing my whole life and whatnot, like at the NBA level, like these guys understand those concepts like 10 times more than I ever will, and they have like teams of coaches to come up with these elaborate strategies that, but then when they cut to like the mic'd up coach in the huddle or whatever, they're like, those TV producers are under strict orders not to reveal any actual strategy. So people think it's like this dumb sport because like they cut to the coach and the coach is like, play hard, get back on defense, come on, stay on them, go get it. It's like, that's just the part they're allowed to play, on television. You can't say
the rest
like
is redacted.
Right, exactly. Like we're going to set a double pin down on the baseline and run this, blah, blah, blah. It's like they, the other team would have access to that strategy if they were like playing that, during this. So I think like it's, it's a very beautiful game. It's like competitive dancing, I think, in a way. Yeah.
It's awesome. So one last oddball question. If it's too weird or you can't come up with one, we can totally move on. But who in the NBA do you believe is overrated and who do you believe is underrated?
Okay, so I think the most possibly the most overrated player of all time is Russell Westbrook. I cannot stand that guy. Like, I think he's just so dumb. Like, sorry, man, like, if he was standing right here, I wouldn't be like picking beef with him, but
you'd be asking for a signature.
Right, exactly. Yeah. But insofar as these are like soap opera characters that you follow and are allowed, like within the bounds of like normal decency, like I don't wish harm upon him or his family or whatever, but I do think he's like a huge idiot who's been overrated by the media since the beginning of time. And that his stats are just from ball hogging and, he just doesn't contribute to winning basketball, and whatever success he had was more due to being on a team with like Kevin Durant, or whatever than anything. So he won an MVP, which I just thought was ludicrous. Yeah. So I think he's like super overrated. Underrated. That's a good one. I feel like this guy was super underrated, but then they won the championship last year. But I will say he's even still underrated is Chris Middleton on the Milwaukee Bucks. Like that guy is just like a shot maker, that I noticed like way early on. Just like there's no overstating like how important he was to the Bucks winning that championship, and the fact that he got injured this playoffs, and like Giannis Antetokounmpo could put on like a superhuman performance against the Celtics, but it wasn't enough. So he's not like a household name, Chris Middleton, but that's part of the point of why I think he's underrated. Yeah.
I wonder if he's underrated due to his name. Because like Chris is such a milquetoast name, and then Middleton does not aspire greatness. So it's just like 2 bananas meat, and you get like and like like name wise, it's like it's hard to be like, whoa, Chris Middleton. You know, you say LeBron James, you say Russell Westbrook. There's some power. There's some oomph. There's some intrigue. Chris Middleton is just like the guy you forgot you went to school with.
Oh my god!
Like when coming around to like looking back through the yearbook, you're like, huh, forgot that guy existed. And you just move on. They're like, "Were you best friends? Wasn't he at your wedding?" It's like, yeah, but I mean, like, his name's Chris Middleton. Like,
that is so spot on. Like, his last name is Middleton, and he plays in Milwaukee. Like, what do you expect? Like, nobody's gonna pay attention to that guy. Yeah, that's a really funny observation. I don't think I think that's not a non-zero factor or whatever. I think there's there's something to that. Yeah.
It's like why people love Kevin Bacon so much. It's like, that last name isn't doing no lifting. All right, switching it over from the passionate. Nathan, what is your preposterous peeve?
So I thought about this is in the name of the show, right? So I felt like I needed a good one, but also authentic. And
thank you.
Very much can't stand it when the toilet paper is hung the wrong way on the wall or whatever, the toilet paper holder, whatever you call that, the mount. It's just, there's a right way and a wrong way to do it. And even it got to a point, this last campaign I was working on in the office, like I was like changing it, like flipping it around. And then like the next day I would notice that somebody had flipped it back. So I was having this like secret passive aggressive battle with somebody else on the campaign team. And I don't think either of us know who we were, but it must have been one of their pet peeves as well. But if you go to any decent hotel, right, anything that's like a step above the Motel 6 or whatever.
2-ply or better motel.
Yeah, exactly. Like it will be hung properly in the like where you take it from the top and you like pull it down from the top. Like if it's hung the other way, I have to like reach underneath and behind the paper towel, the toilet paper roll, and like pull it down, and then you've got to like pull it like 2 or 3 sheets extra in length in order to rip it. And then you
don't like solving a Rubik's Cube when you use the bathroom. Is that what you're trying to tell me?
Exactly. You know, it's, I don't know if it's quite Rubik's Cube level complicated, but I would just rather it hang nice and neat, or, you know, it be in a nice tight roll than like having a bunch hanging out the bottom where you have to like reach farther to get it. It's just like, there's a, you know, it's probably from the same school of thought, the same people who brought you put the salad fork on the outside of the utensils are probably the same people who brought you hang the toilet paper this way. For whatever reason, I don't care where the salad fork is, but I do care about how the toilet paper is mounted, and there is a like documented right and wrong way to do it. This is not just my opinion. This is like I said, go to any hotel and just notice that. So that's my
you should stay there or leave immediately.
Yes. leave now. There's probably lice in the pillows if the toilet paper is hung the wrong way.
These people are not to be trusted. So there is one caveat I've heard to this. I don't know. I'm curious to see if you buy into it. So I've heard, and this is predominantly from people that do it in their own house, not at hotels and such, but in their own house, the people that do it the opposite way, the wrong way, your words, is because they have cats. And if it's facing the right way, the cats can like unspool it very easily, or it's facing the wrong way, it's actually impossible.
That
very
literally
difficult.
I've never considered that. We have had a cat, but he was never like a
TP-er.
Yeah, he was never a TP-er. Like he would scratch the couch, but otherwise just leave everything alone. Yeah, he was a good cat. But that's interesting. I think if there's like actually a logistical reason, then I can forgive that. I could forgive that contextually, but in a vacuum where the only thing that matters is just your like vague preference, if you like that like behind the toilet paper hang, the underhanded, I guess, way. You're just objectively wrong, and
you're
just
a worse person, and I don't need to know you.
Yeah, you're like 0.3% worse of a person, than you would be otherwise. I mean, like, just own it. Like, look, I have plenty of flaws. I'll freely admit it, and so just be honest about it. Just be honest about when you're wrong. That's what I have to say.
I'm a shitty person, and it's okay. When did you first notice this bringing an ire to you? Was this something that happened when you were, an adult, had kids, and like they did it wrong? And you're like, no, this is the right way. Or did this happen long ago? Was this, brought about by your parents teaching, like sat you down, like, look, son, we need to tell you something. And you're like, oh no, it's the bird and the beestock. Like, no, that's for your, health professional at school. This matters. Like, walk you through,
right.
The right way and the wrong way.
So, I think, and this is another thing I can forgive, I think I literally just never thought about it. And probably most people, I would guess, have just literally never thought about this. But once I read somewhere that there was a right and wrong way to hang the toilet paper, I just started literally noticing it every single time I used a toilet. And, people use the toilet every single day, and most of us use it multiple times a day, or for number two, usually average once a day, maybe twice, depending on your consumption habits. But so it's just something you notice all the time. Once I started noticing and thinking about it and having read about it, then it started really pissing me off when I noticed it being hung the wrong way. And so, again, I can forgive it if this is just something you've never thought or cared about. I can understand why. I mean, there's a reason why this is the preposterous peeve and not just like a normal pet peeve, where there's like more reason to it. But yeah, I would say like definitely, if maybe the cat thing, I'll think about that. Like if I'm in a house with cats, I'll just be like, okay, this is more forgivable.
I don't have to leave. I don't have to write a bad Yelp review.
Right.
Like this is, we can leave this be.
And I've been in like dirty bathrooms, and like our bathroom's been dirty. There's just like soap scum, or maybe just some like freaking like errant hair from the shower that like fell on the floor, whatever, like just dirty sinks and what. Like I can forgive all that just because it takes like work to clean your bathroom, and like sometimes you're just like too tired or whatever. Like I'm not there like judging people for not having like scrubbed their bathroom all the time, but hanging the toilet paper takes zero effort or energy. It is literally it is a total free roll, so to speak.
But I'm child.
Yeah.
And with that great pithy quip, we're going to head to our second ad break. But don't go anywhere, because when we get back, Nate is going to enter the lightning round.
Uh-oh.
Have you ran out of new stuff to do, rendering your life wholly unsatisfying? Do you have too much time on hand and have no idea what to do with it? Or are you just plain over this existence and wish for a plane with more intrigue? Might I introduce you to Addiction? Addiction deals with all these problems and more. Had to meet your significant other's parents and would rather not? Addiction. Had to go to work for the third day in a row? Addiction. Rent? Why not? Addiction. Addiction cannot be held responsible for your choice of choosing to imbibe in addiction. Any and all life-destroying fallout as a result of addiction cannot be legally pinned on addiction. But you're more than welcome to try. And we are back. Nate, are you ready to enter the lightning round?
Lightning round?
Well, I don't know if I'm ready, but we're entering it, whether we're ready or not. So, bring it.
Fantastic. All right, put however much time it takes to bake this cookie on the clock. Nate, is there a God?
No.
Shakira's voice in Danny DeVito's body, or Danny DeVito's voice in Shakira's body?
Danny DeVito's voice in Shakira's body.
You're having the best day of your life. What happens next? Another amazing thing or something terrible?
Something amazing.
Are hot dogs sandwiches?
No.
Pineapple on pizza or fist fight?
Pineapple on pizza.
If you had the power to see the future but couldn't change it, would you use it?
Yes.
Kill the spider or get an adult?
Kill the spider. No, actually, leave the spider alone. I don't know if that's an option.
Is there a price for you to give up your passion forever?
Sorry, can you say again?
Is there a price for you to give up your passion forever?
No.
Kanye, yay or nay?
Nay.
Did you ever cheat on a test in school?
No.
Which do you max out first, intelligence, charisma, or strength?
Charisma.
Would you rather have your inner monologue someone like Gilbert Gottfried or Fran Drescher?
Oh my God. I'll say Fran Drescher. I like Fran.
Are Cheez-Its addicting?
Yes.
Make the food or do the dishes?
I don't have a choice. I do the dishes. I'm not allowed to make the food, and I have to do the dishes. Sorry to like it.
Do you create your own thoughts or do you just listen to them?
I listen to them.
If you have to have only one for the rest of your life, which would you choose, rice or pasta?
Pasta.
Would you put your brain in a robot body if you could?
No.
Would you rather have flight or invisibility?
Invisibility. If I had flight, then the military would be called to take me out or something.
Vests or opera gloves?
Vests.
Are you out of touch or is it the children who are wrong?
I think I'm out of touch.
Have you ever buried anything in a time capsule?
Yes.
Would you rather have a bird shit in your mouth every morning, but your breath is lovely, or you have perfect dental hygiene, but your mouth always reeks?
Oh my God. I'll go with the mouth always reeks. Ew.
Rocking chair or recliner?
Recliner.
Pizza burger or cheeseburger pizza?
Pizza burger.
Could you eat 37 of your favorite food for $5,000 in a 1 hour time limit?
No, sorry.
Well, congratulations, you've survived the lightning round.
Woo! Oh my God. That was kind of hard.
Before we move on to your prize, I, like many listeners at home, would like to now know, what is your favorite food?
I'm going to say baklava.
You don't think you could eat 37 baklava?
I guess you're right. They do make little bite-sized ones. Yeah, let me, I can change that to yes.
You can change it to yes, but you can't get the $5,000.
Right. Like I can't, I wouldn't get the 5K. Yeah, that's true. Like I got to pay the price for having answered wrong. I think if it's,
but you do get to eat 37 baklava. So
right.
Who's the winner now?
The little rectangle ones, I could do 37, but like the big triangle ones,
yeah, no.
I could not do that. Yeah.
I can't do 2 of those.
Right. It's a lot of honey and nuts.
Yeah.
You know. So.
And tiny samurai katana layers of puff pastry that are just like overlapped.
I love it.
Have you ever made baklava?
No, but my mom has.
My dad would make it every Christmas, and just watching him do it is this labor.
Wow.
It was like, I was watching him be an artist for one day. It was great. He'd just sit there and just slowly, like he was painting like a like a tapestry. And it's just like, Dad, this is just butter. He's like, shut up. And just go back to slowly doing it as if it.
Yeah, it's so dense and rich. It's just eating a honey butter brick that's crumbling in your mouth. It's good stuff.
Good stuff. Highly recommend. Well, now that you've survived
the lightning round,
what lightning round question would you like to ask me, and in turn be asked of future guests?
All right, I got you here.
All right.
Would you rather eat a hamster at prom or be on camster.com?
People need to know my majesty. I'd rather be on camster.com. I need to give the people what they want, Nate. I need to give the people what they want.
Hey, if you got it, flaunt it. That's what I say.
What about you? Would you rather eat a hamster at prom or be on camster.com?
Oh man, assuming the hamster is cooked, I would eat the hamster.
We're not doing any hamster nigiri over here. Only if it's cooked.
Yeah, if it's like the chicken medallions or the hamster, and you put a gun to my head, force me to eat the hamster, I'll do that. Like, I'm covered in body hair. I'm not super proud of my majesty.
One person has been subjected to this visage. That's enough.
Yeah, that's good. I'm good.
All right, man, as we come to a close here, anything you want to plug, recommend, places people can find you, your content, or shout outs you'd like to give to friends and family?
Yeah, so if you're into magic, you could check out my seldom used Twitter that I use for magic content. It's at Walk the Plains. But what I really want to shout out is my wife. Her name's Amanda Rabinowitz, but she goes on Twitter by at Dr. Amanda R. Dr. Amanda R. And she does a lot of podcasts that are like TV recap shows and like TV watch pods for various television shows. She did an awesome one for the Apple TV show Severance. Great show, awesome podcast. Like Ben Stiller now follows her on Twitter. It's like, so yeah, her, and she's just like a really funny tweeter if you're just into tweets. So yeah, I think like she's a great follow.
That's awesome. That's so sweet. Well, thank you, Nate, for being my guest today, and a special thanks to my editor, Richard Ashford, and my composer, Joshua Gibbons. And thank you, yes, you listening at home or wherever you found time to appreciate this. Time is the most precious commodity we have, and I appreciate you spending yours with us. And if you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe, like, or just share it with a friend. Every little bit helps. Or if you already have and are out of episodes to listen to, don't worry. We put out a new episode every Monday at midnight on Soundcloud, YouTube, Spotify, and iTunes at Passionate People and Preposterous Peeves Podcast. And a very special thanks are due to our Patreon patrons, Sibeliello. If you'd like to join said illustrious ranks and have your name read aloud, just head on over to patreon.com/Passionate People and Preposterous Peeves Podcast. And remember, folks, if you don't rinse out the container before we make blintzes, then all day I'll be making squinces because I'm allergic to dish soap.